What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. Today is part 3 of my series looking at the Rhino Rocktober 2025 list. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, this is part 3 of my series looking at the Rhino Rocktober list. There's a lot of albums coming out over the month of October. There's 43 albums altogether. Today I'm looking at the albums coming out over the last 2 Fridays, so I'm looking at October 24th and October 31st. So if you're unfamiliar with what Rocktober is, Rhino does 2 different events during the year. They do Start Your Year Out Right in January, and then they do Rocktober in October. And every Friday of the month they'll do exclusive releases, whether it's box sets, sometimes they'll do limited releases, sometimes it's color variants, sometimes it's stuff that just hasn't been pressed in a really long time. And this is all stuff that should be just exclusive to your brick and mortar record stores. But there's a really long list this year. There's 43 albums overall that they're releasing over the month of October. So if you missed part 1 and part 2, make sure you go back and check out those videos. So I'm going to start the list with October 24th. That's a pretty short week. There's only 3 releases that are coming out that week. All 3 of them are from Warren Zevon. The first one is Mr. Bad Example. Came out back in 1991. It was his 8th studio album. It's going to run you about $25. This album really kind of launched the second half of his career. I think it's really a return to form album for him. I don't think it's the best album that he would release in the 90s, but it would lay the foundation for what he would do over the rest of the decade. I know the album really kind of flew under the radar when it was released. Critics really liked it, though. It's one of those albums I think has really gotten better with age. If you're somebody that's only ever listened to Excitable Boy from Warren Zevon, it's definitely an album to go back and revisit. So you got that coming out. You've also got Learning to Flinch. Came out back in 1993. It's going to run about $35. This is a live album that was recorded in the summer and fall of 1992. So it was a tour he did right after releasing Mr. Bad Example. I know Warren was not known for doing a lot of tours across his career, and he only released 2 live albums in his career, with this being the second one. But what makes this album so great is these are more stripped down versions of his classic songs. This is also a fully solo acoustic live album. Really kind of showcases the greatness of Warren Zevon. It also did include 3 new songs. It received widespread critical acclaim. And I'm pretty sure this is the first time it's ever been available on vinyl, so it's great to see this one getting released. And then the third and final release that's coming out from Warren Zevon on the 24th is Mutineer. Came out back in 1995. It was his 9th studio album. It's going to run about $25. So it's a little bit more of a minimalistic recording from Warren. The title track would go on to become one of his best tracks from the later part of his career. And the album really reflects this shift to this more intimate sound that he was focusing on in later stages of his career. And just like I said for Mr. Bad Example, if all you know from Warren is Werewolves of London, these are definitely some albums to go back through and check out. So that kind of wraps up October 24th. So starting on October 31st, you've got Bad Company, Rock and Roll Fantasy, the very best of Bad Company, coming out, released in 2015. It's going to run you about $32. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to be on silver vinyl. So this is the greatest hits compilation from Bad Company, spanning from 1974 to 1982. So all the band's best known tracks are all included on this compilation. So you got songs from their groundbreaking debut album all the way through their 6th album, Rough Diamonds. I think there's 19 tracks across the 2 LPs. I know Bad Company would go on to release other albums after that period, but, in my opinion, really that early period from the band, that's really all you need to listen to. The next release is kind of an interesting album because it's one that I really haven't heard anyone talk about, and it's one that I'm really interested in checking out. This is Early Steps by Faces. This is going to run about $25. So it's all early recordings from the band right after they formed in the late 60s. And from what I read, these are all previously unheard recordings done at Olympic Studios. So if you're unfamiliar with Faces, you might know some of the people involved in this band. Rod Stewart was there, Ronnie Wood, Kenny Jones. They did release some really good music in their career. I'm really interested to hear these early recordings from the band, so I'm definitely interested in that one. This next one, this is one that I'm a little disappointed in. I think they could have gone in a different direction with this release and done something maybe a little bit better. But this is Pet Sematary by the Ramones. So this is a 3-track, 12-inch single. It's going to run you about $19. It's going to be on translucent red vinyl. I love the songs that are on here. Pet Sematary is easily one of my favorite tracks from the Ramones, especially from the later part of their career. So you got Pet Sematary on there. You also have Sheena's a Punk Rocker and Life Goes On. But if they're going to focus on this period from the band, I mean, they might as well have just done Brain Drain, which in itself is a highly underrated album from the band. Better yet, they could have reissued End of the Century or any of the last 3 albums from the Ramones. I probably will still end up picking this up just because they are one of my favorite bands. But, I mean, a 12-inch single, I mean, I probably could have done without it. Also on October 31st, you got this Rush box set coming out. This is the albums 2002 to 2012. This is a new 7 LP box set. It's going to run you about $150. So what you're getting in this box set is the last 3 albums from Rush. So you got Vapor Trails from 2002, you've got Snakes and Arrows from 2007, and you've got Clockwork Angels from 2012. And then you've also got Feedback from 2004, which is a covers EP that the band did, which I think is just 8 songs that the band did. It's all cover songs from, just songs that really influenced the band over the years. The box set does a great job of documenting the late stages of this band's incredible career. I think it's been a couple of years since a couple of those albums have been reissued on vinyl, so that one's coming out on the 31st. Then you also got the alternate Funhouse by the Stooges coming out. So this is going to be on opaque white with black vinyl. It's going to run about $25. So this is an alternate version of the classic 1970 proto-punk album. So I think all the tracks are included on this alternate version. Were first released back on the expanded CD version back in 2005. I don't think any of them have ever been released on vinyl since they were released on CD. I'm sure they're good, but when it comes to these alternate version albums, I've got a couple of them. I think I've got I know I've got 1 or 2 of the Doors alternate albums. I think I've got 1 or 2 from Fleetwood Mac also. But what I found is I don't listen to them nearly enough. If I'm going to listen to the album, I'm just going to listen to the original version of the album. They're kind of fun and kind of a novelty kind of way to have. But I don't think I listen to them nearly enough to actually have them on vinyl. And I'll wait to see what reviews say about it once it gets released. But I don't see myself grabbing a copy of it. There's also one more Warren Zevon album that's getting released for Rocktober. Of course, that's Excitable Boy. It's one album that's been reissued a bunch of times over the years. I think that Rhino did a version for Rocktober or Start Your Year Off Right within the last couple of years also. So it makes sense that they would release it again for Rocktober. But this time, it's not really just a standard Rocktober release. This is a Rhino Reserve release, so it's a little bit different. A little more of an audiophile version of it. It was released in 1978. It was his 3rd studio album. It's going to run you about $32. If there's a Warren Zevon album you've ever listened to, I guarantee it's probably Excitable Boy. It's easily his best known album. It's the one that's got Werewolves London on it. It reached number 10 on the Billboard 200. It was the album that made Warren Zevon a household name. And I'm not sure about all the Rhino Reserve albums. I know this one in particular was cut by Chris Bellman, so I know this one's going to sound absolutely fantastic. If you don't have a copy of this album and if you want to get one, this is probably going to be the version to own. I don't have a copy of it, so I probably will grab a copy of it when it gets released on the 31st. And then the last 5 albums I have on my list are all from ZZ Top. ZZ Top is another one of those bands that Rhino has been reissuing a lot of their albums over the last couple of years. I think it was, I don't know if it was earlier this year or if it was last year, they started doing all their earlier albums. I think they either started them as Start Your Year Off Right or Rocktober releases, and then they did Rhino High Fidelity releases, which then they reissued all those individually. And then Rhino just recently did all 5 of these albums as a box set, and that box set was all numbered. So what they're doing for Rocktober, for October 31st, that's the 5 albums I got on my list, are all 5 of those albums in that box set, but they're going to release them all individually, and I believe all these are all unnumbered. Because generally all the Rhino High Fidelity releases are all limited to, I don't remember if it's 3,000 copies or 5,000 copies. The first of the 5 releases is Degueo, released in 1979. It was their 6th studio album. It's going to run about $38. This was definitely more of an experimental album from ZZ Top. And commercially it worked. It ended up going platinum here in the US. Cheap Sunglasses ended up being a massive hit for the band. And I think it's still widely seen as one of the band's better albums. Second album coming out from ZZ Top on that day, El Loco, came out in 1981. It was their 7th studio album. Same thing, Rhino High Fidelity release. It's going to run about $38. This is where ZZ Top started getting a little more creative with their sound. The band incorporated a little almost like new wave into their blues rock sound, and it definitely built upon the experimentation that they started on the album before. I think by 1981 they saw where rock music was going, and it definitely had more, I think more of a modern rock sound with the album. It's one I haven't listened to in a really long time. I definitely need to check that one out again. Then you also got Eliminator coming out that same day, released in 1983. It was their 8th studio album. It's going about $38. Out of all the albums that ZZ Top has ever released, I think this is the only one I actually own on vinyl. I think this was the album that really cemented the band's worldwide fame. Of course, the video for Legs was all over MTV at the time, and this is the album that really introduced me to ZZ Top. Obviously not when it was released. I don't think it was like maybe 88, I think was around the time that I first listened to this album. But I've never been a huge ZZ Top fan, but this is definitely one album that I can go back to and listen to all the time. And maybe that is because they continued that kind of a little more modern rock sound that they had on El Loco. And then the fourth ZZ Top album coming out that day is Afterburner, released in 1985. It was their ninth studio album. It's going to run about $38. So commercially, it was a successful album, but it was kind of a polarizing album also. I think it was mainly due to the fact that it was a little more of like a pop-centric album from the band. It was a little more like a synth rock album that the band had done before. They definitely utilized more electronic sounds on this album than they had before. And I think it did work on some of the songs. It didn't work on some others. But I mean, you really can't argue with the results. It still hit number 4 on the Billboard 200. It sold, I think, over 5 million copies here in the U.S. So regardless of what you have to say about the album, it still sold pretty well. So you got that coming out. And the very last album I have on my Rhino Rocktober list is Recycler. Came out in 1990. It was their 10th studio album. It's also going to run you about $38. So this was definitely a return to that more like bluesier rock sound from ZZ Top. The single Double Back was featured in the movie Back to the Future 3. Actually, I think the band was in that movie also. I think it's kind of widely seen as a return to form album for the band. Even though commercially it didn't do quite as well as the album before. I think it only sold a little over 1 million copies and hit number 6 on the Billboard 200. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing for the last couple of weeks for Rhino Rocktober. Like I said earlier, this is part 3 of my series, so make sure you go back and watch part 1 and part 2. There's lots of good stuff coming out over the month of October. Like I said, 43 albums altogether, which I think is the biggest list that Rhino has ever done for Rocktober. And I think it's because there's so many High Fidelity and Rhino Reserve albums that they're releasing for October. But as far as the last 2 weeks of Rocktober go, I'm probably going to grab that Ramones album. I'll probably grab that Bad Company also. We'll see about 1 or 2 of those ZZ Top albums. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me all thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.